North Carolina has over 130 people on death row. This is part 3 of the series. Warren Gregory, 31 years on death row. Gregory was found guilty of kidnapping, essay, and murder and given the death penalty. Gregory was assigned to Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina, along with 2 other Marines. The men went out for a drive and they met 2 women and another man. Warren Gregory offered to drive the group, but they did not accept. Gregory drove away, but he quickly turned around and came back towards the group, this time brandishing a shotgun. Warren Gregory shot the man in the face and forced the 2 women inside the vehicle. The women were taken to a secluded area where they suffered from essay and then they were killed. Alden Harden, 30 years on death row. Harden received the death penalty for the October 1993 murders of 2 Charlotte Mecklenburg police officers, Andy Nobles and John Burnett. His attorneys have argued that he killed them in self-defense during a struggle.
These were 2 kids that could be anybody's 2 kids. They were kids. They were in their 20s, and they were kids who could do anything. They were talented, attractive, bright, ambitious young men who could do anything they wanted to do.
John Burnett and Andy Nobles, it was quite a team. They worked great together.
One of those guys, perhaps both of them, would have been a chief of police. If he had done something else, he'd been a president of a bank. He'd been a success in whatever field. And yet they had decided what they wanted to do was be policemen.
They really wanted to make a difference out there.
Knock, knock. Yeah. How are you?
John was just one of a kind. He was wide open, and he could make you laugh in a heartbeat.
You know, John had all the enthusiasm in the world. I mean, he was just go, 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 and you write the program up, I'm gonna go do it, you know.
I remember being in little tussles with people out on the street with John, and John would do something which was funny. I mean, after it was all over with, we'd get into something, and then he'd be out there trying to make the guy's best friend, you know. And the guys just tried to, hurt him, and John wants to make him his friend.
And she told me about her little son, who now is about 2 years old. She said that every Friday that John came to check on her just to make sure that she was okay, and they brought diapers to her little boy.
They came to my house several times, which I respect them as police officers, but, we're just like a family.
John never met a stranger.
Andy thought of himself as a minister. He has a brother who is a minister, and Andy told his dad that he thought what he was doing was every bit as important in carrying out the work of the Lord in terms of ministering to the young children in the community in which he was working.
To me, Andy is a hard person to describe because you can make him sound like a fairy tale, how good he was, how nice he was.
If he couldn't make a job, he'd call me, and he knew he can depend on me, and I knew I could depend on him. And that was kind of relationship that we had.
One of his friends said that he could take all of Andy's friends and put them together in a room, and they wouldn't have anything in common except Andy.
When I think of Andy, I think about the all-American guy. Very good-looking, good shape, loved being a cop, excellent police officer. Just was, always had a smile on his face.
And the reason that he wanted to help the neighborhoods was because of the children and the elderly people, the people that couldn't help themselves.
Philip Wilkinson, 30 years on death row. A young soldier named Philip Wilkinson entered the Fayetteville, North Carolina police station in January 1992 and stated that he was troubled by his conscience. In the end, he admitted to a triple homicide that occurred 6 months earlier, shocking the expanding military community and leaving authorities hunting for the perpetrator. According to a Fayetteville police investigator, Wilkinson, 24 at the time, explained what happened while speaking in an even tone and without displaying any obvious signs of regret. Wilkinson observed 19-year-old Crystal Hudson dozing off in her family's couch through sliding glass doors. He told police that after breaking into the house and caressing her, he started pounding her on the head with a bowling pin he had found in the yard. After that, he entered the bedroom where he discovered Larry Hudson Jr., age 11, and Judy Hudson, age 38, the mother. He murdered them with brutal assaults. Judy Hudson experienced SA, as did her daughter. James Thomas, 29 years on death row. Early in 1986, Thomas moved into the Raleigh, North Carolina-based Sir Walter Tourist Home. He made friends with Teresa West, the home's manager, while he was a resident. Thomas and his fiancée relocated to Cary, North Carolina in June of that year. Thomas was a heroin addict, so on the evening of June 13, he drove to the tourist house in a friend's car to visit West, who had informed Thomas that she had some heroin. Following an unsuccessful attempt to obtain cocaine for injection alongside the heroin, Thomas went to West's room and administered the heroin injection. In addition, he injected and dissolved several medications that West provided him. Thomas said during the trial that West approached him when she was only partially dressed and wanted to have relations. Thomas declined, citing his incapacity as a result of the heroin and his commitment to his fiancée. Thomas states that when West tried to start an argument, he passed out. West was dead when he woke up, and Thomas left. A phone receiver that had been placed into West's private area was discovered within her body. The autopsy's forensic specialist testified that West was physically and with pantyhose strangled, and that the phone receiver was most likely inserted after her death. Charles Bond, 29 years on death row. Despite not being there when Wayne Thomas, 25, was shot and killed, Bond was given a death sentence. He was 46 years old at the time, and he had given an alleged accomplice the order to assassinate Thomas hours before the murder. Bond was sitting in a hospital room a mile away when the guns fired. Daryl Woods, 29 years on death row. The state of North Carolina condemned Woods to death for the essay and killing of Trey Devon Gibson. Court records state that Daryl Woods broke into Trey Devon Gibson's home, essayed her, and then killed her. Gibson's body was autopsied by Dr. Donald Jason, who stated in his testimony that there were burns on the lower back, right buttock, and left upper thigh, in addition to 20 stab wounds to the neck, 8 sharp wounds to the neck, and 5 stab wounds to the mid-chest. The burns had the appearance of having been caused by a curling iron. Torture is consistent with the incisions appearing to have been created with the intention of severing the skin of the neck. Trey Gibson would have suffered greatly from the stabbings. She bled to death. According to Dr. Jason's testimony, that would have happened within 15 to 30 minutes. Timothy Richardson, 29 years on death row. The state of North Carolina sentenced Richardson to death for killing Tracy Marie Rich. Richardson killed Tracy Rich while robbing a convenience store, according to court filings. On a rural road not far from the business, the victim's body was discovered stuck under her vehicle. The victim's glasses and tennis shoe were discovered in the road close to the vehicle. The glasses looked like they had been hit by a car. Richard Cagle, 29 years on death row. Cagle received a death sentence for a robbery murder. In court records, it is stated that Ricky Cagle and his associates chose to murder Dennis Craig House in order to rob him. Terry Hyatt, 24 years on death row. For the 1979 robberies, essays, and killings of Betty Sue McConnell and Harriet Delaney Simmons, Hyatt was given 2 death sentences in 2000. The case remained unsolved until 1998, when a guy entered the sheriff's office and acknowledged assisting Hyatt in kidnapping a woman. He was the last individual in Buncombe County to receive a death sentence. Jason Wayne Hurst, 20 years on death row. Hurst killed Daniel Lee Branch after robbing him. Branch was a devoted husband and father who worked hard for his family. He was trying to raise money by selling a number of guns. Hurst got in touch with him and said he wanted to purchase the guns. Branch consented to show Hurst how the guns operated by taking him to a remote area. Hurst shot Branch with a shotgun as he entered the field to set up a target. After falling, Branch got up and ran for his life. Hurst shot him once more. Then Hearst stood over Branch as the man was pleading for his life. He shot him in the face a third time. After taking the car and its keys out of Branch's pocket, Hearst drove to West Virginia with the stolen guns. John Scott Badgett, 20 years on death row. J.C. Crisco was murdered by Badgett after he robbed him in his home. Badgett had nowhere to live. Crisco had consented to let him temporarily reside at his house. Crisco was stabbed in the throat by Badgett, who then followed him around the home while he bled to death, even pushing him to the ground when he attempted to cry for help. Badgett asserted his right to self-defense, saying that Crisco had grown enraged and was cursing at him. Badgett returned to the house after killing Crisco and proceeded to steal and sell goods from it. Badgett had stabbed another victim in the throat years prior and had been found guilty of manslaughter. He had a violent past in which he had beaten and stabbed multiple people. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.